So, did that work? Take 3, take 7, whatever this is. I don't know what happened. I switched an audio source. Hopefully that fixed the issue. Good evening, guys. I'm so sorry. I've been sitting for 45 minutes. That's all I'm going to say. It's been an adventure. Daddy's home. We're back. This was not the plan. I'm still on makeshift paternity leave, but given the fact that this is a holiday week and the market's already open, here we go. Yeah, I would say I'm a little off my game. It looks like we're good now. Everyone giving me some thumbs up. This was not the plan. Obviously, I'm here. We're going to have some fun. We're going to still prep. It's a shortened week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be your trading days. Thursday, obviously Thanksgiving. Markets or futures are going to be open for at least a half day. I believe it's just a half day. And then Good Friday as well. Not Good Friday. Black Friday, excuse me. Also a half day holiday. I don't know what happened with the audio, guys. Everything was connected. I just kind of was about to close OBS and try this again, but we got it going. It's all good. We're here. Let's have some fun. I know we are a good 45 minutes past the, says more volume. How about that? I can even up my gain a little bit. I gotta go back and retweak my settings. Clearly, I don't know what happened. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Does that sound good? Everyone good? Everyone happy? Nick is here. No, it sounds perfect. All right. We're going to just go with that because that's what the people in the chat are telling me. So, how was everyone's last 2 weeks trading? Mine, as you know, I've been away waiting for the birth of my daughter. So, I would like to say I was the best boy ever and the best husband ever and did not look at markets, did not take a trade, but we all know, if you know me a little bit, you know that's probably not true. I had a very quiet week, but a good week the last couple of weeks. I was trading if I saw an opportunity. I was not staring at charts all day, every day. I did some degenerate mobile trading at times when I was just sitting bored in a hospital room, just killing time, and then kind of the slow transition last week. And I was woken up to some news, and we can send a last, pour one out, last hurrah for Nick4ATick's XFAs. I had my last bucket, I guess, with the new news moving over to my live account. So you guys will see me exclusively trading my live account unless conditions don't favor it, in which case you'll probably see me trading a combine, but we will be focusing on the live accounts going forward. So good news. I think for a lot of us, it kind of reaffirms my focus, gives me something to really try to grow the account and continue to have success in and really take, A+ setups rather than I think what a lot of us do in sim accounts, in XFAs and others, which is you take probably a little bit more risk than you would if you were trading your own capital. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the live account, I would say I try to be a little more patient with entries, walking away up, a few $100s even at times if I'm not seeing a good setup and I'm kind of been staring at screens for a little while. So it'll be interesting to see how things evolve, but I'm actually excited for the change. It gives me, like I said, more focus, more clarity, and just an idea of taking better trades is kind of how I want to attack it. But, jumping into the last 2 weeks, I know you guys know I've been gone for 2 weeks, but I've been casually watching the markets, casually looking at charts, and you kind of you had this early consolidation 2 weeks ago, post kind of the Trump pump, whatever you want to call this at this point, that we shot, made a new all-time high, hit an air horn. I don't even know if my air horns are working. Let's actually just see, just for fun. I don't know if that's actually working. I'll have to check my settings, like I said, but you made a new all-time high, you consolidated, you balanced, and then we kind of melted towards, 2 weeks ago, that kind of Thursday and Friday just started to sell off. And then now we've been slowly creeping back up. Looking at last week's distribution, you have a pretty, wider setup. We started near those lows. We continued to kind of retest the old balance range we were in going back a few weeks, kind of pre-election cycle. And we have not been able to kind of fall back into that old range. We've just kind of been pinging off the highs of it and then now balancing in this potential new range above 5,900. And if we're looking at, it's a holiday week, it's a shortened week, you got 2 half days. It's one that I would expect a tighter range, albeit to the upside personally. I'm not looking to do a whole lot this week. If I can get a couple trades, great. But I'm not going to be sitting here staring at screens. You guys won't see me on fast markets until the following week when I've got a little better handle on my personal life here and the new life of becoming a dad. But going into a Thanksgiving week like this, seeing that we are trading at the highs of the previous week and then even gapped up on the open, yeah, I would expect that gap to be filled here in the coming hours or into the next session, of course. But given that we closed near the highs of the previous week, that tells me even in a tighter range from the holiday, in fact, just looking at this, the last 2 weeks, I would expect this week's range to be somewhere between the 5,900s up to this point of control from 2 weeks ago up to 6,030s. So potentially a tighter range of about 80, 90 points at the absolute most. If we were to go make a new all-time high, I wouldn't be shocked by it, just given the potential lower volume that you may see after probably Tuesday's session, after the FOMC minutes, and once we get past PCE on Wednesday. I very much could see, if we're not trading up here, most likely us just kind of consolidating somewhere between that 5930s level and even probably pinging 6,000 again, maybe just kind of ping-ponging between those. I would not be shocked by that type of consolidation and range. But given where we are, given we gapped up, we may just continue to kind of move up a little bit higher, but we'll have to see. I'm a little optimistic that you may get a retest of last week's point of control, which is also why I'm putting my weekly pivot somewhere down near the 5920s to 5910 range. I would expect this to once again possibly be retested this week, even on low volume. You've just got the FOMC minutes. You've got, like I said, PCE. So there's some things that could potentially create just some small amount of volatility. I wouldn't get too crazy either direction. I don't expect us to really leave a lot of this range. If you do, it's going to be tomorrow or Tuesday if we were to kind of break down and go further. If not, I would expect balancing and continuing to range, at least in this next week's time frame, slightly higher. So not a whole lot I would expect, but when I'm just looking at this, I think even Hoag's weekly kickoff high and low are pretty tight too. Let's see. Yeah, the pink. Oh no, his low is down here at 5,800s. Okay, so we actually are above his weekly kickoff high already, up here at 6,000. So we gapped up above it. So like I said, I would expect the gap to be filled, but we never know when and how and why it's going to eventually get there. But I would expect us to come back below 6,000 at some point here, maybe in the Asia session, maybe in the London session. I would expect the gap to be closed by the time I wake up and potentially look at the markets. But yeah, let's take a peek because I know we are already late. Let's just jump through and kind of make a run. NQ also gapped up. I think gold even had a crazy gap. I didn't look at CL yet because I was trying to figure out what was wrong with all of my setup here, but I'm glad to know we are good. We are live. Everyone's happy. Everyone's going to get some prep here on a Sunday night, and Nick slowly transitioning back to his life as a trader. So, and wildly volatile. The latter half of last week, we definitely were just kind of range bound between 20,500 and then up here near the kind of 8,900 area. So gapping up above that, we're kind of in no man's land, if I'm being honest, on NQ. It could go either way. We could head back towards 800s, or we could go attack and retest this old consolidation range going back to the kind of early parts of November and that election move up, where I'd be looking at 21,100 to kind of act as a level of resistance, just kind of being the bottom of that, whatever you want to call it, 5 days of consolidation roughly. I know that trickled into the following week a little bit too, but yeah, I'm bullish this week, guys, to be honest. There's not a lot that I think is going to push us down right now. I mean, it could. There's tension in the Middle East. You've got everything else going on in the world. I would not be shocked if we were to fall back into some of this previous range. Once again, this old balance range from hell in NQ, as I was calling it, somewhere between the 20,700s back all the way down to 20,000s. But for the time being, we're in this no man's land area where if it shot to 21,100, no one should be shocked. And if it fell back towards the 800s to retest a potential breakout to start this week, nobody should be shocked, but same thing. A more balanced distribution in NQ than we did see in ES. ES was just kind of slowly marching up. NQ did as well, but it is a more balanced distribution. But we did close near the highs once again, just like we did in ES. The fact that we are seeing that, it just gives me a little bit more of a bullish bias coming into this week. But I'd be looking for longs probably somewhere in the top end of this range. Even last week's value area high down here at 20,800 should shock nobody. The market seems to love those big round numbers at times. So that's one I'd be having, kind of marked on my charts, or just an idea of that potentially acting as continued support. We saw it act as resistance in the early part of the week, sold back down. So if we were to come down, retest it, and you found buyers continuing to kind of step in, defend it, maybe get along, maybe try a long in that general area, unless you see, something just super aggressive like we saw towards the end of 2 weeks ago when we were just melting through. But some of the opens the last week had been a little volatile. There were some great, I would say, long opportunities out of those. I think I caught a good one. Might have been on Wednesday, but yeah, I'm still bullish looking at this. It's hard to really want to short NQ too much outside of scalps, outside of some intraday moves, but we just continue to march higher, retest old areas of balance and breakout areas, and then move back up higher. So with that being said, we did gap up once again. We came to a spot, kind of this, where did we reject off of? Yeah, I don't even have a good reason why we rejected off 960s, to be honest. 958s. I guess, yeah, there's really not a ton of volume up here. That's kind of why I was saying, and we're a little bit in no man's land, but NQ looks like it wants to potentially go fill this gap already so far, coming off that high, making slightly a move lower. ES is still kind of hanging up there. Let's jump over to GC. I think GC had a pretty wild move out of that Sunday open as well. It did. Oh, by the way, guys, looking at GC specifically, Nick was in the hospital. I'm not kidding. Screaming at a few people to get long GC at 2550s. In fact, I did in a personal account, and I flattened it at 2560s. But what a move off of that area. And then even the retest and consolidation that we saw down here, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago's low. I want to say that was Thursday pre-market. We were kind of sitting around here. Yeah, I was around 5 a.m. because I had been up all night and was kind of like, this is an idiot trade. I should not be in this. And that's why I flattened it for, a quick 10 points in GC. But we have just been slowly marching higher. And I think going back a couple weeks, it might have been we were still trading in the 2700s. I would not be shocked by a more outside move down to go retest somewhere around 2,500 in GC, just to keep everybody honest with how bullish it was for a few weeks. And you got that. You had this multi-week consolidation that we were kind of in going back into August. And I'm sure if we've been following volume profile and things like that, this was a relatively simple long, just knowing that this high volume edge was kind of down there in the 2550 area, of just giving you some level of confidence that you maybe temporarily catching some aspect of a bottom in that spot. So if you've been long GC for the last week, congratulations. That's a great trade. It's one I would have absolutely been trying to get along with and continuing to hold. In fact, that's one where if I probably wasn't in the hospital, that's a, an MGC long that I would love to still be holding for a trip back to a new all-time high potentially. I was saying to a few people when Bitcoin was, I want to say, pushing above 80,000 at the time. I know it's almost pinged 100,000 and has been falling off, but I was saying, hey, if you get any weakness in Bitcoin, I would not be shocked to see a move back up in GC. Just a natural rotation. You may possibly see that. Granted, Bitcoin is still moving, but GC found at least a temporary bottom for the time being. But 200 points, or almost 200 points later, about 170 points later, still moving back up. Had that gap down to open us here at Sunday, pushes back down below 2700 and is now continuing its march back to the north side. So as far as this week, zooming out, GC currently sitting in the low volume node right here at 2720s. If you were to get a move back up, the first place you're going to find sellers is going to be somewhere between the 2740s, probably up to 2750. So if you for some reason are bearish GC right now, maybe for the Bitcoin trade, maybe you just don't believe in this euphoric move we've kind of seen up, I'm still looking to long gold all the way to 3000 personally, even if that trends into the early parts or the middle half of next year. I would not be shocked to see it continue to move that way. So by all means, if you're trying to short it, that's probably your first spot. You know, you've got 3 weeks of point of controls in that general area. That 2750s to 2760 spot has been an area of chop, for lack of a better word. So if I was still going to be long GC right now, if I was long from 2550s, that's probably the first place I would, if I hadn't already covered my position, be looking to take a large chunk of it off and then probably holding runners to a new all-time high. So if you got long in the early parts of this week, somewhere between 2700 and probably 2720s, honestly, that's where I'd be looking to, ride it towards. And if it goes a little higher, if it break out to a new all-time high, I don't know if we're going to do that this week with the shortened week, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm still as bullish gold as ever. If you were trying to get longs, do we get some aspect of a weakness sell back towards this multi-time frame kind of point of control down here towards 2675 to 2680s? That's probably a pretty safe long as well to potentially build into a position. You've got a lot of consolidation that we've had there going back towards the end of September, early October as well. So definitely a good spot to potentially try to get long if you aren't long already, or if you were long early parts of last week and covered in that general area. It's a good spot that you could potentially see a rebid happen if you were to get any weakness to start the week. But yeah, God, what a trade. I wish I was still holding that. But Nick was being a good boy in the hospital and deciding this is a bad trade. I should not be in a trade at 5 a.m. So it is what it is. But sometimes you just have your prep, you have things marked, and that was an area I had marked for weeks since the breakout. In fact, going back to, I think, when we broke out above 2,500, when I was sitting on air with Coach Dakota, I had that area marked because we had been consolidating in that spot for so many weeks that I just was looking for an opportunity to potentially buy it. But it is what it is. We move on to the next trade. I've missed many trades. I'm going to miss many more in my lifetime, or ones I would have, could have, should have been still holding. NQ spread is almost 2 points, apparently. Is it? Yeah, it is. I see 175, 1.5. Yeah, that's kind of wild. All right, let's jump over to Crude. Crude continues to be a absolute roller coaster every single week. It just, look at this. Look at all the volume profiles here. It's hard to have any semblance of a direction of a 4-hour trend trade, of a multi-week trending opportunity trade. You just don't see it. CL just continues to kind of punch you in the mouth. And when you zoom out here, no surprise, looking at the F contract, is we pretty much have just been pinging between the value area low and the value area high. So using volume profile, once again, I know this is multi-weeks at this point, but we have just been range bound between 67s and basically 72s, I would say, for the last 2-3 months almost. So the same is true. We're kind of in the middle of the range right now, but just like we saw with the indices, looking at kind of the range from last week in CL, we closed near the highs. So I'm not the first person to want to short that, just knowing that we've had a very bullish move for the last week, especially coming off the previous week's consolidation, a sell down, and then a rebid, and then we've been bullish ever since. So the same thing would be true here. We have a couple weeks of point of controls and consolidation in this general area. Basically, we're trading now around the 7130s to 7150s spot. So you may find some sellers stepping in here, continuing to kind of want to push us back down. But if you were to break out above this level, you probably have a trip back towards the high 72s, maybe even all the way to 73.25s is very possible. So We were just talking about it with the indices, but when we have a range like that in the week where we close near the highs, sometimes you get that continuation move up, or you may just get more consolidation chop type thing. But if you were to get any weakness, the first place I'd be looking to potentially bid would be back down here towards 70.30s, 70.25s. Yeah, and then I guess 70 even probably would even be fair. But looking at this, I mean, this is even looking at the last, 6 weeks? Yeah, this is a 67 to 71, 50, almost 72 type range. So you're at the top end of it. So would not be shocked to see some sellers trying to defend this area, potentially pushing us back down towards the point of control. And just knowing that and knowing that we're at the top end of the range, yes, we closed near the highs, but the more I think about this, the more I look at it, this is more continues to look like a range bound asset in the way it's been trading. So if you found sellers here, maybe, I mean, I don't know. This is probably a hands-off trade for me. The more I'm looking at this, I don't know if I want to enter anywhere near 71.30s as it's sitting here. It just looks like it's either a lot of chop or you may get that range bound move back towards, all of this volume that we've had for the last few weeks. So I haven't taken a CL trade in weeks, and I don't think this is the week that I'm going to do it either. I did take some GC trades though last week, so I am proud of myself in the way of seeing something else move that wasn't chop and actually taking a good trade with it. Sometimes it's good to find another asset that you can look at and trade. I even passed a combine trading micro Bitcoin. I really did. That combine or that XFA is dead, but I did in fact pass a combine doing it. So, that was, I guess when there's volatility, you can find anything to trade, but that was entertaining even for me. I was about 2,000 away, I think, from passing it. And I just said, hey, screw it. I'm going to trade some Bitcoin just because of the way it was moving and, using some basic principles that I trade with. So it can be replicated across different asset classes. But yeah, if I was looking at this again, guys, just to kind of repeat what I was saying, somewhere near 72s to basically where we're trading now, I would not be shocked to see a seller step in and try to continue to keep this more of a range-bound asset for the time being. But just knowing how bullish last week was, if we got continuation, maybe went and retested 73s, do not be shocked by that. But this is a range-bound asset that I have no interest in trading right now. So yeah. And I know we are super late to getting going in this, guys, but if you have questions, if there's something you want me to go over or talk about too, feel free to throw it in the chat. We'll grab them. I will get to them towards the end of this. I don't know when we're going to end now. We're just kind of rolling here. Daddy's on caffeine and is feeling good, and it's good to be back with you guys. I did miss the show. I have missed TopstepTV. I have missed, interacting with everyone. So it does feel good to be back. I won't be back this week in perpetuity. That'll be next week when I am kind of back to my usual scheduled programming here on TopstepTV, but this is good. This is a good transition week, just knowing it's a holiday, knowing it's Thanksgiving. It's going to be a lighter week as it is, I think, for a lot of us. I'm sure most of you are going to get away, spend some time with family. So, maybe do that. Maybe don't look to find trades Thursday and Friday with the half days on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Notoriously not a great trade. I think I'm usually putting up Christmas lights on Thanksgiving Day and that Friday. It's pretty much my end of the week at this time of the year. So, definitely do take some time. That's why I'm doing the show now, is just to kind of slowly get back into the market, slowly get a feel for everything, get the kinks out of the technical setup things too. I'm glad we worked through all of those challenges. So hopefully we are good to go. But let's jump over to some earnings. It's super light, obviously, with the shortened week. But there are a couple on Tuesday that could not necessarily move the market, but are potentially important to pay attention to, could provide some aspect of some trading opportunities, at least in the early part of Wednesday and in the overnight on Tuesday evening. And they're going to be, no surprise, they're going to be Dell, CrowdStrike, and Workday. So three larger organizations in the kind of tech sector that are going to are worth paying attention to. You guys may not know Workday. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I think everyone at this point is familiar with CrowdStrike after their little mishap kind of shut down the internet for whatever it was, a few hours, few days, a day, whatever, half a session. I don't know. It was weird. But they are reporting as well as Dell. So those are the only three I'm really paying attention to this week. None of them are market movers. I know we got past NVIDIA earnings last week. I wish I was on air with you guys having some fun and, looking at how that shaped the markets in the latter half of the week. I know everyone and their mothers continuing to hope our Lord and Savior Jensen continues to keep us as bullish as we are. So it's good to see we kind of, I guess, shook off their lighter guidance, whatever you want to call it. But we move forward on to the next round of earnings season slowly. So Dell, CrowdStrike, Workday, the only ones I'm paying attention to really this week. And then things will pick back up after the holiday break. On the earnings calendar, I know we had I briefly spoke about it as we were coming on a little late, but you've got a few that are going to be market moving this week. The biggest one is going to likely be the FOMC minutes. Sometimes it's a non-event. Sometimes it is a volatile few moments as algos are digesting the talking points from the Fed. So that's at 2 p.m. Central on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, obviously, the latter half of the session may get super light with volume. It may get a little volatile. We'll see. But you have PCE. I don't know how much the market cares at this point about it, but it's still something the Fed's going to be paying attention to. It still is something to be watching, and it's still something that's going to, stop you out in the pre-market, give you some trouble. So once again, I don't recommend trading the latter half of this week whatsoever, pretty much past these volatility events, maybe even the euro close on Wednesday. My advice would be, guys, go lock it up for the week. Go do something better with your time. Those are the big ones. You obviously have Dallas Fed. You've got a 2-year auction tomorrow, a 30-year bill auction, the usual suspects. Dallas Fed manufacturing, like I said. I think we've got jobless claims. Yeah, jobless claims on Wednesday as well. So may get overshadowed, or one of them may get paid attention to more than the other. But just knowing the lighter week that we kind of have outside of these events, maybe even take advantage of the newest TopstepX feature, the customizable lockout button. If you were not paying attention last week, I don't know how much it was stated on air, but I know MP was talking about it on Twitter. We now have the ability to customize from a time frame of when and how you are locked out from trading your TopstepX accounts. So the cool thing about this, I actually didn't know they were doing, by session. In fact, I should be somebody that is completely locked out from trading anything as far as the, overnights outside of the early part of the London session into the pre-market. I should not be anywhere near allowed to touch Tokyo or Sydney. They've just historically been pretty bad sessions for me. Ones I tend to lose money, or just should be doing something better with my time, not staring at charts. So I may take advantage of those personally, the session by session lockouts. But the cool thing, I think Rips and other people have been asking for this one too, but you can set obviously custom settings as far as how you want to be locked out, as far as time frame, I believe, quick options. I love the shot clock aspect, where if you took a stop out, or you're feeling tilted, I love the ability to force yourself to go do something for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. That's really cool. Or lock you out until a certain time of the day. Because I think a lot of us, you get stopped out of a trade, and it'd be really cool if you actually do get stopped out, or your stop gets triggered, if it could automatically, let's say, or I could set this for me to automatically be locked out for 15 minutes. So I don't do the classic tilt re-entry trade and potentially start fading a move that hasn't quite developed yet, but is still in the process, let's say, of starting a, trend move down or trend move up. And you get tilted, you get back in at another, slightly lower price, slightly higher price. And then the market continues to move against you in that way. So the 15-minute for me, I think, is actually very effective, just to take a breath, maybe go get a snack, go get some water, come back a little bit more refreshed, and kind of dissect the market, almost to the next period change, if you will, to jump from a time frame standpoint. So take advantage of this week, guys. I think this is a really awesome feature. As you guys know, Topstep continues to kind of innovate on TopstepX. So, that's awesome for all of us traders that can continue to have customizable risk parameters that we get to manage ourselves. And I know we all should be growing up in our trading and be able to do these things, but it's hard at times. We all get tilted. We all forget that at the end of the day, we're in control of our emotions, and sometimes having the extra component of it with something like this is going to save. It's going to save somebody this week. I guarantee the 15-minute shot clock type lockout is going to save somebody from, fading a trend day this week if you were to actually, click the button and do it. So take advantage of this. It's really cool. It's really innovative. I think this is a great idea. I love the session by session lockout as well, just because, like I said, someone like me historically is not the most profitable trader as far as Mr. Slow markets and the Asia session and the overnight session, the early parts of London. I'm just not the best trader. I need the volatility and the slow moves. Granted, London tends to be a little more trendy in one direction or two directions, but I'm also asleep. So it just prevents me from doing anything stupid if I were to wake up knowing that I am a little bit sleepless right now as well. And, that life change is going to affect my trading in some aspects. So this is great. It keep me from doing stupid things in the overnight sessions when I should be resting, when I should be sleeping. So this is really cool. I'm glad they have added this. If you're on TopstepX and you don't see it, click the refresh button. You should see a little update banner that says there's a new version available. So really cool. Glad they added this. Oh, just because I'm back, let's take a quick peek at our favorite options, 0 DTE degenerates, and what we are seeing as far as options gamma going into this shortened week. No surprise, the largest strike is going to be SPX 6000. But when we're looking at the net gamma across the board, everything is skewed to the north side. No shocker in a potentially lighter volume, shortened week. Usually tend to just be a little more bullish. So you have our, you have institutions, you have our dealers, everyone kind of skewed a little bit, whether it's for protection, just their exposure, just a little bit to the north side. Doesn't mean we're going to be bullish this week, but it does tend to lend strength to a move to the upside when we see this. And they also potentially will act as resistance. So like I said, the big one to watch, honestly, off the top of my head, I do not know what the spread is roughly. I didn't really watch the end of last week. I kind of stopped trading on Thursday, but yeah, so I'm not sure what the spread is, but 6,000 SPX is something to keep in the back of your mind this week, whatever that spread may be. So mark that on your chart. Just have an idea roughly where that level is. I would imagine it acts as some level of resistance, at least on the first attempt. But other than that, it's pretty skewed to the upside. And then the big strikes down to 5,900 or 5,950 going to be the ones to watch. So nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, but definitely the net gamma skewed a little bit more to the north side. Alrighty. So let's recap a little bit and we will get to some questions. How about that? And as I said earlier, if you have questions, if there's something you want me to go over or talk through in a little more detail, feel free to throw it in the chat. We'll grab it and I'll get to it in a few minutes. So going into this week, just knowing that we gapped up and that we were kind of bullish out of the gate and continued to, retest aspects of the lows of last week and then make moves to the upside out of them. I'm leaning bullish this week. My pivot for the week is going to be down towards 59.20s, down to 59.10s, basically this point of control from the previous week. And that being kind of this high volume edge, value area high, not high volume edge, value area high from October actually on ES as well. So, and even just looking at this multi-week consolidation, the value area high on ES is going to be in this general area. So a couple levels of confluence as far as market generated information, giving me, a reason to place it there. If you guys were wondering kind of why and how I do it, just to keep myself honest, a lot of the time it's based on multi-weeks of, volume profile and market generated information. just to give us an area that I would expect to be defended, where you may find buyers stepping in to rebid, and where you may see some sellers look to cover if you were to get a larger move down. That's where they potentially may run out of a little bit of gas. So just knowing that it was the top end of that balance range from, a few weeks, and the, October value area high, just giving me confidence that I would expect this area to be a little bit chop, and a little bit of some resistance. I wouldn't expect us just to flush right through it potentially, but we shall see. Like I said, I would not be shocked if we go retest 5,900 at some point this week if you were to get a larger move to the downside, just knowing where we're trading right now. I know that's 100 points away, but it's still possible. By all means, like, we could find sellers continuing to step up in this area. It's a shortened week. I don't have high expectations. Like I said, I would expect a tighter range. If we don't go make a new all-time high, I would expect us to kind of balance in the 5930s to the 600 type area. So that's the prep. That's the logic. That's what I'm looking for as far as, ES moves this week. So let's get to some questions. How about that? There's not a whole lot, so I may be able to give you guys some time back in your evening as well, since this has been a cluster of my first show back. But I think we had some fun. I'm glad we actually got on the air. I was kind of debating behind the scenes, like, do we just call it at this point, just because of how it started? But we're back, we're here. How do you use this indicator? I'm not sure which indicator you were referring to. BAB institution, if you're in the chat still, feel free to clarify with me. I'd be happy to explain which indicator you are referring to. The only ones I have in my chart, to be honest, it's got to be volume profile, or the weekly kickoff levels. So the weekly kickoff levels that Topstep puts out, it is available inside of TopstepX. And basically, it just pre-populates your charts with market-generated information, as well as Hoag's secret sauce of a weekly kickoff high and a weekly kickoff low. He likes to say he uses tea leaves and chicken bones to basically create them, but a lot of the time it is based on, other aspects of market-generated information, the same way I create my levels. So a little bit of volume, a little bit of some other things he probably throws in there, and just some eyeballs. Hoag's been around and doing this much longer than I have, and he's got great eyes as far as support and resistance. So that's usually what these lines are based off of. Outside of the weekly kickoff levels, there are just MGI levels. So you'll see the previous day's settlement, the previous day's value area high, value area low. Like I said, I use volume profile, so I always like to make sure those are on the chart for you guys. I can usually see them from the previous session, but it's a good way to just have it auto-populate on your chart. So if you're talking about that, that is what those are. If you're talking about volume profile, so the histogram you're seeing with these red lines on my chart, that is volume by price, is another word for volume profile. Basically just shows you in a histogram format where the most volume traded as far as the price of the asset you are looking at. So in ES's case, last week's point of control, so where the highest amount of buying and selling took place, was basically my weekly pivot. So right here around 59.20s. So that's all it means. And then the value area high, value area low on this basically equates to where 70% of the volume actually traded within the previous week. So that's kind of how you use it. There's a ton of, if that's the indicator you were asking for, that's, a very small way that you can kind of use it. It just tells you where volume has been traded in a specific time frame. So if you're curious or you want to learn more, there's a ton of free content on YouTube from good traders that understand how to use this to take trades. And we've talked about it on previous sessions. I won't dive too much deeper in it than that right now. So we'll leave it there. What to trade right now? Anything and anything. Everything and anything, I would say. It depends on your style and what you like to trade. Do you like volatility? Do you not? Some things move certain weeks. The indices tend to be volatile some weeks. And then you have something like CL that may trade in a range for months at a time. So it really depends on what you want to trade, but the markets are open. We did gap up. There's potentially a trade to look for that gap fill. I'm not taking it, but there's always something to trade, and there's always a trade to take. Doesn't mean it's a good trade. Gap up in NASDAQ. What does that mean? A possible higher move for the week to all-time high. That's kind of what I said when we were coming finally on the air. It's hard to make too much of Sunday gaps. I don't put a lot of weight in them. Yes, we did see a bullish move out of the gate to the upside with the gap up, but we also know gaps tend to be filled. So grain of salt with gap moves as Sunday opens. Yes, they can be a signal of trend. They also can be completely false, and it can be just filled because it's a low liquidity environment, and real traders won't really come into this market until probably the London session or parts of the Asia session. So it's hard to make too much of it, just knowing that the spread is a little over a point right now, and we've seen it as high as 2.5 since we've been on the air. So I wouldn't put too much weight in any sort of directional indicator on a gap up, gap down on Sunday nights. Nick, where can you see the gamma option levels? So there's a bunch of sources out there. You can check out Spot Gamma. You can check out GexBot. There's a million, honestly. They all usually have a paid component to it. I use one that just has a simple histogram that was created by one of my trading mentors. It's a service he has, but that's kind of why I share it with you guys, and I have his permission to share it with you guys. But if you're curious, you want to learn more about how to use Gamma to kind of guide your ES trades, there's a ton of content. There's a ton of resources out there. Like I said, most of them are paid, unfortunately. But if you are an options trader, I would highly recommend subscribing or just getting more in the weeds on what it means and what options flow looks like intraday. If you're trading 0DTEs, I would say that's an important level of data that you should be looking at to guide your decision making. If you don't have a shorter time frame, it's probably a little less relevant to you, to be honest. If you're holding positions, overnight for weeks at a time, I would say 0DTE gamma is kind of irrelevant. What are your thoughts on YM? Well, let's take a peek. Oops. Okay, well, I don't know if this is gonna work, but let's get a Sunday open air horn for for the Dow. What do I make of it? I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. The Dow makes a new all-time high. Nvidia's included. I mean, the indices are bullish right now. You probably get continuation. We may fall back into range. I don't trade the Dow, but looking at just like we did with ES and NQ. It's a pretty bullish move to the upside after making a retest kind of back towards, what is that? 43,500. So just like we said with ES and NQ, would not be surprised to see us continue to march maybe towards 45,000. Why not? As I like to say. And somebody in the chat, did the air horns I just hit actually come through so I can know if my mixer is actually working right now or if I need to actually fix it? So someone can please let me know if that did in fact come through. But yeah, I'd be looking probably for continuation. They did. Perfect. I think I fixed my issue with OBS. So that's a good thing. Okay. But yeah, I'd be looking for potentially a rebid back towards probably 40,400s. Excuse me, 44,000. I don't trade the Dow, guys. I'm not, I don't think I've ever taken a YM trade now that I think about it. But yeah, just like we were seeing with ES and NQ, this is pretty bullish, closing near the highs, gap up to open Sundays. So do we continue to see a new all-time high? Does somebody step in large and sell us back down and push us back into the range? We'll see. Nick, how do you pick your levels? So I think I was alluding to this. Most of my levels, and you guys can't see my motive wave charts or even my trading view on this, but most of mine are on the 4-hour time frame, if I'm being honest. A lot of them are volume profile based. So, using like wicks and bodies, even if you don't use volume profile of a series of candles on a 4-hour time frame is a good way to find support and resistance. If you're new, if you're still learning, that's a good, eyeball way to start do it. But I also take it a step further and look at things like Delta, look at, larger order flow data that comes in at certain price points. And then I mark those more manually too. So I look for, I would say, confluence of a few of those things, and then may mark a level. So if it's a very long wick, let's say on a 4-hour, ES candle, NQ candle, and I happen to see something as far as MGI that came in there, as far as Delta, as far as order flow data, that's something I may mark a little differently, with colors, with, boxes, other things. But at the end of the day, guys, everything I do is just generated by the market and, just my own learning and experience that I've had. You start to get almost like muscle memory is the longer you do this. If you have success or you take trades and they don't work out, but you see things happening, it's important to, you can call it journaling. I'm not a big journaler personally, but I record things that happen or things I notice, because Jay likes to say that price level or that price point meant something to someone. So when you are watching price action and you see something happen, even if you're not in a trade, and it's interesting, like the way reversals happen or the way breakouts happen, when you mark those things and you observe price action in those environments, you start to remember, or you see things, you start to get an idea that, hey, there's a high probability trade setting up here because I've seen this type of thing set up before. And the more you see it, the more confident you can get in potentially marking that type of level or taking a breakout trade or taking a reversal trade. It just comes down to like muscle memory in the markets or seeing things happen as a pattern. That's really what it is. Hey, Nick, congratulations on the new baby. Could you explain how you have your chart set up? I can't figure out how to set up volume profile on TopstepX. Sure. So there's two ways. You can do the ever evolving histogram that I have, which would be the visible range volume profile. And you can just go to indicators and search visible range. It'll pull up volume profile visible range. Actually, you can actually just favorite it as well, so it just pops up easily. But you do that, and then it'll put this on the right where it basically just gives you that histogram of whatever's on your screen. So all the candles that are on there, it'll spit out the histogram of volume profile for whatever time frame you're looking at. So I like to have that. And then for you guys, since we've been doing this now for months, I draw the previous week's volume profile using the fixed range volume profile. And what this brings up is a drawing tool in TopstepX. And then you just select your whatever candles you want to cover. So I can go for the last 3 weeks, and it'll spit out the histogram as well for that one. So basically on Sunday nights when I'm doing my prep or I'm doing my show with you guys, I just draw the candles from the previous week and it spits out this all pretty for me. And then you can play with the settings as you see fit. If you're curious about mine, I switch to ticks and I keep it at 1 point for ES. So pretty simple. And then you can change the colors as you see fit. And how you can just play with your settings and where you want it placed. If you want it on the right side, the left side of that time frame, you can adjust from there. Hopefully Topstep adds the one that auto populates for you. So you could add a rolling 5 days, you could add a month, whatever, and it'll just auto do it. But until then, it's super easy just to draw it yourself. And then you can kind of customize it a little more from there. So that's how I have it set up. And then I add the Topstep daily levels as well, because I love to, use that as added confluence and just to keep me honest, since I don't do my charting daily in TopstepX. I use it more to, execute my trades. I'm still using TradingView and MotiveWave and other things too. So for me, it's almost like if I redid what I was doing in TradingView inside of this, my charts would look just horrendous. It would just look like a bad kindergartner's, art project. So we're not going to do that. I keep things pretty tight and pretty simple in here. All right. Nick, number one tip for brand new trader. Take it slow. Take it slow. If you think you're ready for minis, you're wrong. That would be probably my biggest advice is, first of all, just do not feel like you have to rush and try to size up, make a ton of money There's nothing wrong with trading a single micro and proving out that you know what you're doing, and doing that in a Topstep account, doing that in a combine, doing that in, literally any simulated environment. Even if it's not Topstep, you could continue to just refine what you're doing, observe price action, take a trade. We say this on the house account every once in a while, where even if it's just like, hey, I'm kind of feeling it, I don't know if I would throw even my own account. I'm just observing price action. Let's throw a mini on just to, kind of prove out a thesis to see if it works. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that in a sim with a, single micro, just to kind of get a feel for, trading. So spend as much time there. And I'm not saying, do that until you feel like you're profitable, but make sure you know what you're doing. Cause I was somebody that came into this and was trading minis almost out of the gate and thought he was, the god of trading suddenly, and knew what he was doing. And then, cause I made a couple grand in a session or two, and then eventually got punched in the mouth, blew up my first personal account on Trade of 8. And you kind of work your way back from there, but nobody needs to lose, 10, 15 grand because they think they know what they're doing in a couple days. So take it slow. That's why Topstep's great. Your cost is fixed, and you get leverage to, trade like you would if you were trading a couple $1,000 account, or excuse me, a much larger account. So that would be my advice is, stick to that, prove it out, make sure you have a strategy, something that you can continue to replicate day in and day out, that you can adjust on the fly. Market conditions will always change. So take it slow. Do not feel like you have to rush into, sizing up, adding to positions. It's pretty simple to, build a good baseline of your trading by just, trading one MES. And potentially that's another good advice for brand new traders. Do not trade NQ yet. Very much learn how to get in and out of trades, prove out directional moves by trading an MES. And then if you eventually feel like, hey, I know what I'm doing, I need a little more volatility, sure, try a micro NQ if that's really what you want to do. I know that's what everybody and their mother wants to do, is trade NQ. And there's so many days, guys, where it punches me in the face and I move back to ES. It's just, you kind of need to feel like I can sit in a trade for a few minutes and let the thesis play out versus the way NQ moves. So there's so many times that I'm wrong. I'm not necessarily wrong on the move, but I'll get stopped out on NQ, and an ES hasn't even really moved a couple points. So for new traders, stay away from NASCrack. Nick, do you use the same lot size on good looking trades during a holiday week? To be honest, I don't know how much I'm going to trade this week as far as size. I'm not going to trade any differently. I really don't, unless the conditions are super volatile. But if we're, range bound and it's pretty slow, I'm not going to change my size, which would be between 3 and 5 ES and 3 contracts on NQ. Regardless of market conditions, when they're pretty volatile and bad, I will size down and kind of build into positions. I'll add singles, and then I'll get out even with one NQ if I feel like I'm wrong, rather than letting it build to a 3 and then still stop me out. So, but in a holiday week, it just may move a little slower. We may get a tighter range. It may be more range bound. So you just have to adjust based on that. But holiday weeks, they just can be a little weird. So I would always say if you're not confident in what you're seeing, definitely size down. What is your style of trading? Do you have a set strategy you follow? I do a number of different things. At the end of the day, guys, I trade based on price action, volume, and market generated information. That is really my strategy, and it can work for me taking directional trades. It can work for me taking reversal trades. I tend to not have a single strategy that is my, I only trade this way. I'm really adaptable. There's days I rely heavily on options flow data, and there's days, I'm not kidding, I trade on vibes. Like, that is the stupidest thing ever, but it really is true. It's just, you're very much like reading price action. Rips uses the term, you're in the pocket. It's that, like, that is me trading on vibes. It's just, you're kind of just feeling things. You're reading things very well. You're calling out price action. You're watching the DOM, and you can, or the ladder as MP calls it, and you can kind of just start to get a feel for what's about to happen. So it kind of evolves from there. A lot of my, when you guys see me take reversal trades, I think a lot, I tend to be that trader at times that takes, trades out of low volume edges and looks to see price action return to an area of higher volume. That is a type of reversal trade. That's a range type of trade. That's somewhat of a trader that I am. I wouldn't say I'm a range bound trader, but I tend to look for areas of, low volume in the auction and look to take the trade back to a point of control or an area of higher volume, because that's what markets do, 7 days out of 10 days. That's typically what we see. It may not look like that, but when you zoom out, it does. So I look to take those probability trades, and I take them in ES a lot of the time. And then I use some larger option strikes potentially on SPX to kind of guide where I may enter for that larger 10 to 15 point move in ES. All right. So I don't know how long we've been talking. I don't know how long we've been going at this point. This has been an adventure of a first evening back. I will say that most of it was because I couldn't figure out why my mic wasn't working, and we had to deal with that whole thing. So thank y'all for bearing with me. I very much have missed all of you and everyone in the TopstepTV team, and, trading with my friends, what has become my little family here, in this trading world. So I look forward very much to getting back in the swing of things. I guess next Sunday I will be back with you all, and we'll have some fun for sure. Next Sunday, and I will be much more, in the weeds, ready to kind of attack this. I think it's a good week to trade a little lighter, just given that it's Thanksgiving, given that, the latter half of the week are 2 half days. If you're trading on Thursday, I don't know what you're doing. You should be watching football and, taking a long nap in the afternoon after eating too much food. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. Unfortunately, I won't get to see my family this week. They're going to come out in a few weeks to meet the newborn and hang out for a little bit. But yeah, please trade safe this week. I would say if you are trading past the Euro close on Wednesday, maybe reevaluate what you're doing, or maybe you're chasing down a drawdown, but that's a good time if you are going to be actively trading this week. Maybe that's where you hang it up. Maybe that's where you shut it down. Maybe that's where you use the lockout feature and lock yourself out until the Sunday open. I think is that December 1st? I think it is. But yeah, that would be my advice to everybody is not necessarily trade smaller this week, but maybe lock it up a little early. If you get a good green trade out of the gate, go do something better with your time this week. It's definitely going to be potentially tighter range, a little less fun than I think we had in the last week, but who knows? We may get an outside move tomorrow, and I have egg on my face for thinking that, but we'll see. Thank you all for bearing with me. Thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties and the little change in programming. And I can't thank Coach Jay enough for covering for me the last 2 weeks. I'm sure you guys were in great hands. I'm sure it was good too to have a different perspective on, prepping for the week and attacking it from a Sunday open perspective. So I'm glad I have a good team behind me that can, step in on a moment's notice to cover for us. And I know we all kind of return the favor to one another. So I can't thank him enough for doing so. So yeah, thank y'all. Everyone have a great rest of your Sunday evening, and pour one out once again for our Bears fans and the TopstepTV team that is in Chicago and still supporting Caleb Williams at this point. That was a heartbreaking loss after a wild close to the game. So I am sure we will hear more about that tomorrow morning on Fast Markets. If you can't get enough TopstepTV, tune in to Mr. Slow Markets himself coming on here in about an hour to give you guys another perspective of attacking this week. So tune in for him. Dakota will be here shortly. But everyone have a good night. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. You won't see me this week on Fast Markets. I will be back the following week. So take care, trade safe. Everybody have a good evening, and I will see you all probably in the TopstepTV chat this week if I am sitting around. So have a good night, take care, and good luck.